Ladies and gentlemen, good morning. May you all take your seats and switch off your cell phones so that we can start the event. On behalf of ABPI, the Brazilian Society of Intellectual Property, we start now the opening ceremony of the 42nd International Intellectual Property Congress, Innovation and Society 5.0. This meeting, one of the largest of its kind in Latin America, brings together the most relevant personalities involved in the discussion and perfecting of intellectual property. We would like to acknowledge and greet the following people present here. Dr. Claudio Villar Furtado, President of the National Industrial Property Institute. Mr. Luis Enrique do Amaral, President of the International Association for Intellectual Property Protection. Mr. Patrick J. Coyne, President of the American Intellectual Property Law Association. Mr. Enrique Diaz, President of the Inter-American Association of Intellectual Property. Mr. Macias Nuttinger, President of the Argentinian Association of Intellectual Property. Mr. Rafael Navarro, President of the National Research and Development of Corporations, the association for this purpose. Mr. Rodrigo Puc, President of the Chilean Intellectual Property Association. Mr. Álvaro Loureiro Rivera, President of the Brazilian Association for Industrial Property Agents. Mr. Daniel Adamson, President of the São Paulo Intellectual Property Association, and Mr. David Callis, representing the USPTO. We would also like to greet the members of the presidency of ABPI, the organizing committee of this meeting, representatives of INPI, and those of you who are here on site and also online. Thank you. We would like to invite the president of the Brazilian Association of Intellectual Property, Mr. Gabriel Leonardes. Good morning, friends, ladies and gentlemen who are here with us at this auditorium and also online. It is a reason of joy to start this 42nd International Congress of the ABPI. As you know, this is the first Congress under the administration of this executive committee, of which I have the honor to preside since January. We are striving to keep up with the high quality of previous editions, and I am sure you will our very highly qualified program of today and tomorrow. Our administration is committed with diversity and inclusion, and we strive to do our part in fighting machismo and structural racism. I call on all of you to help us achieve this objective. The current executive committee has gender parity, 5 men and 5 women of the total of 8, and also the delegates that will represent us with the ABPI Congress in San Francisco. Within a few weeks, we will have gender parity, 3 women and 3 men. In these 2 days of discussions, we will have 31 women amongst our lecturers and moderators, and next year we will have even more. After 2 years with online meetings, we are going back to the on-site version of our Congress with 430 people present here and 280 participating online. In particular, I'd like to greet and thank for the presence of almost 100 colleagues from 22 different countries who have come to interact in person with us here in São Paulo. I'd like to thank the organizing committee for the various months of voluntary work in preparing for this Congress, as well as the whole competent team of professionals hired by ABPI under the leadership of our relentless executive director, Erica Denise. ABPI, in line with the Sustainable Development Objective by the UN. At this meeting, we have achieved the carbon offset seal, and it also supports the Partners for Education, an NGO, for helping governmental school students, thus contributing for public policies in education. I will not repeat the details of our program, which have been already discussed. And since my inauguration, I have said that our country will only achieve a higher degree of social and economic development with environmental sustainability if we manage to foster and protect intellectual property in an efficient manner. Only intensive economic activities within the realm of knowledge can foster a dynamic society with better social conditions and high value added. Those who we will elect in 2 months should have a concern first to lay the conditions for the innovation of Brazilian industries. Secondly, to assure the financial autonomy of INPI, which is necessary so that patent examinations can be done swiftly. It is the quickness of examination that makes it possible for entrepreneurs to make investments, especially for Brazilian-funded companies, which are those who suffer the most because of the lack of resources at INPI. These topics will be discussed over and over during our Congress. I'd like to thank for the intense partnership of INPI, WIPO, and the many agencies that provide support and disseminate information about this meeting. I'd also like to thank the institutional partners of ABPI and the sponsors of this event. I am also happy to find at the cocktail at this hotel tonight to meet all of you present here. Our hosts will be the sponsors of our Congress. We will have live music, and it will be a very joyful opportunity to celebrate this meeting. I wish you all a very fruitful Congress. Thank you very much. Next on our program, we would like to invite Mr. Stafford Macy, angel investor in technology and former CEO of Google in South Africa. May we please welcome him. Muitíssimo obrigado. Muito obrigado. É maravilhoso estar de volta ao Brasil. Eu adoro esse país e me pediram para falar nesse congresso. Nem sempre eu viajo internacionalmente, tanto quanto antes, mas eu acho que assim, quando eu falei com a Érica, o que eu adoro é o paralelo entre o Brasil e a África do Sul, do ponto de vista econômico, cultural, nós somos muito parecidos. Então, quando eu falo do caminho das tecnologias, o que está acontecendo com a tecnologia hoje, eu vou dar um ponto de vista da África. Eu acho que esse ponto de vista africano vai ter muito a ver com o latino-americano. Há uma grande correlação, e quando nós temos oradores dos Estados Unidos ou da Europa que começam a nos falar sobre o caminho, eles não entendem os desafios.
Technological adoption in Africa, Brazil, Venezuela, Argentina is very different from a consumer in the United States or a consumer in Australia. Now, we have different challenges. In Africa, when we build technology over there, we don't build fun technology, right? And in Africa, you're not going to see the next Facebook coming from Africa. You're not going to see the next Twitter coming from Africa. You're not going to see the next Yahoo coming from Brazil. What you are going to see from our countries is the next banking of Yahoo. You're going to see the next healthcare of agriculture, right? You're going to see businesses that have human impact from a technological perspective, and not products and services that are fun, where people are just clicking the like button. I think when we innovate on the ground where we are, we're looking at real life impacts. We're looking at real life challenges, and those are the things that drive us. But the key thing, before I talk about myself and I talk about, kind of where technology is, I want to just talk about Africa. because people don't really understand Africa. And let me just spend 1 minute on this. Our continent is significantly big. I was sitting next to a gentleman on the plane not too long ago. I won't say where he was from, but he wasn't from Africa. And I told him, I'm from South Africa, I'm from Johannesburg. And he said, oh, you know what, I know a guy in Morocco. His name is this. Do you perhaps know this guy? I was like, whoa, do you understand Africa? I think the African map, if you take a look at Africa on the world map, Africa is very small in relation to maybe the United States or North America or even Asia. But if you actually take a look at the land mass, it's massive. I mean, it's the largest continent on the planet in terms of population. It's the largest in terms of in ratio. But just take a look at our size. You know, that's 30 million square kilometers. And you compare it to places like China. China is 9.6. But if you take a look at China's population, relative to our population, it is the least populated continent on the planet. And yet it's got the most arable land on the planet. It's got more resources than pretty much any other continent on the planet. The things that drive electrical vehicles, the things that drive the electronics in the machines that we use in your phones, the core materials come from Africa. And we mine them over there. We are leaders in fintech, in terms of financial technology, in terms of agri-tech, in terms of defense innovations. Africa leads the world. But we don't really talk about this, because every time you see Africa on the news, you see a poor kid with a fly in his mouth and, you know, he's laying there and you think, oh, that's Africa. Sure, there is poverty. Sure, there is challenges. But it's an incredible continent. And what I love about Africa is the one statistic over here. The average age is 19.7 years. It is the youngest continent on the planet. The next billion users that will be connected to the internet, the only next billion that's left on the world is going to be connected in Africa. Now, the beauty of this is the latent human potential. And this is going to be a key topic of mine today. I want to say the following, and I'm going to say it over and over. As much as it is about technology today, it's more so about humanity. It's no longer about what it is. I think what we are dealing with as humans now is what is the consequences of the unleashing of this technology? What does it result in? That's where our minds are today, not in terms of what are the bits, the bytes, the protocols, etc. That's not where our thought is anymore. Our thought now is, when we take this out and people adopt it, what occurs? What's the consequences? And we are starting to see consequences that are dystopian. We are starting to see consequences that are not actually the best outcome. Because we are taking technologies, and I don't call them technologies, call them superpowers. Artificial intelligence is not just technology. Artificial intelligence is a superpower. But the challenge with these superpowers is that they have kryptonite. AI is a superpower, but its kryptonite is inequality. We can see this around the world. If we don't use tools as leaders properly, then we can have dystopian outcomes. If you take a look at the tools that we have in our hands today, what we do is we take people like myself, we put them on stage, and then we wow you with the technology. That's okay, but be careful. Don't create idols out of engineers. Don't create idolatry from innovation or innovators. I call it the idolatry of innovators. This is a challenge. What you need more in the room in your businesses, and what businesses need more in the room of, is not technologists like myself. We need journalists. We need people that understand the humanities. We need people that understand Greek mythology. We need to understand people that understand anthropology. Because that is very important to balance out what we do with these superpowers. Because today, as leaders in businesses, you can do more with less. You can. But there's a different way. You can do more of what was previously impossible. And these are the things that the tools allow us to do. Now, just to contextualize my talk, I'm going to talk about technology. I thought about this and I spoke to Erica and some of the team and I said, maybe I should talk about it within the context of intellectual property. But I thought, no, you know IP. You know what IP is all about, etc. So what I'm rather going to do is share my views around where technology is today and what I believe it will look like in the next 3, 5, and 10 years. Now, it's difficult to get up on a stage and to tell people where it's going to go definitively. I can't do that. But what I can tell you is that technology has leanings. Technology is made up of characteristics, electronics. It's ones and zeros. I can't tell you when the raindrop drops into the valley, I can't tell you where the raindrop's going to fall exactly, but I can tell you its trajectory is downward. I could have forecasted the internet, but I couldn't have forecasted Google. I could have forecasted the telephone, but I couldn't have forecasted the iPhone. So we can tell, broadly speaking, where technology is going. And hopefully today, I'll give you an understanding, and from the technological outline that I will depict, hopefully you can derive or infer from that the IP challenges associated with it. I think we're sitting in a day right now where a lot of people in this room in the next 10 to 15 to 20 years may not have jobs. Because there is technology arising. There are things like blockchain and smart contracts where we don't need legal people, right? Where IP is self-protective. I can put it into something and I can lock it with mathematics, and it unlocks itself when and so as per I tell it. And I don't need a legal framework associated with it. This is going to redefine IP and the protection of IP and the federation of IP and the commercialization of IP. But I'm not going to focus on that. What I'm going to focus on is where's it going and what's happening on the outside of your businesses. So let's unpack it. So a little bit about me. My background, I started Google in South Africa. I ran Google Africa for 3.5 years in 2006. I then went on to build technology. I built payments technology. Now, a lot of you, this looks like Square. We did this before Square. We did it 1 year before Square. We filed lots of IP. From a South African perspective, I fully understand the challenges with intellectual property from an investment perspective and a capital raise perspective with VCs, where VCs are coming into Africa, they're promising capital, but they ask you to take your IP and to domicile it in a jurisdiction that they like. Either take it to Delaware or take it to London and domicile it over there. Else they won't do it, right? Exchange control laws associated with that. So I've built quite a bit of technology. Then I've invested in quite a few tech companies that I've exited from. So don't fail. I'm going to talk about Soren in a second, and I'm going to show you what we did with AI. And then I also established WeWork in South Africa. Adam Newman, all of you know Adam Newman from the movie, etc. He hired me, and I started Sub-Saharan Africa WeWork. But then the pandemic came, and that broke that business. I'm on the board of a bank, Discovery Bank, and also a board of the NASA of Africa, the CSIR. Okay, this is where all our investment and our research goes into defense, all the way through to agriculture, etc., all the research. So this technology that I built, called the Payment Pebble, got deployed in certain areas, specifically retail. This is a company called YuppieChef. They went from online only, and then they went to offline, brick and mortar. But what they didn't do is what a traditional retailer does. They didn't deploy a point-of-sale machine, etc. They took our technology and augmented their humanity, their people, and delivered a service that was previously impossible. The retail experience in YuppieChef is like when you walk into an ice store. You don't have to go to the checkout counter. They can check you out right there. Well, YuppieChef did that even before you saw that technology, right? And that's human-machine symbiosis. That's an example of it happening over there. Then, utilizing the same technology in a retail environment to do merchandising, etc. And this was a world first when we did it. We filed 19 patents associated with it. Now, this technology is what I want to spend a couple of minutes on, because this is going to tell you where AI is. We always talk about AI and this like AI in the sky. Well, let me tell you what's happening with AI in Africa and what's happening with AI in South Africa. If you take a look at this, this is a retail environment where you go into a retailer and you pick up a product and you walk away. Now, what AI does, which is quite fascinating, AI unlocks time. It removes time. That's quite a fascinating thing. If you take a look at any business and you ask yourself, if I remove time as a delimiter, what happens? If I can create real-time information and I can federate real-time information throughout this business, it starts redefining what the business is. And we started doing this inside of retail. So if you take a look at this, this is a smart plate that sits underneath products. And that plate gives a retail shelf the ability to feel. It can feel weight, it can sense temperature, movement, etc. So when you walk in there, when you put X amount of products on there, I can tell you there's 10 of them. When you pick it up, I'll tell you there's 9. You pick 2 up, I'll tell you there's 8. And I can take that information and put it into SAP in the background in real time. And then suddenly your logistics engine changes. Because the way logistics works in retail today, you've got this big SAP infrastructure in the back end, right? Hundreds of millions of dollars you're spending on SAP. But the problem is, SAP is being given information that's 2 weeks old, 3 weeks old. Because you're waiting for the retail store to put the Excel spreadsheets together, and then you put it into SAP, and then the truck that starts at the depot with the amount of products in the back is correlated with information that's 2 weeks old. What does IBM say? You can't cross a highway with information right? You can't cross a highway blindfolded with information that's 5 seconds old. So what AI does, it unlocks real-time information. So this is what we did. At the very edge, as consumers are picking up the product, we federate that information in real time into the back end. That changed everything in this retailer. But if you notice something here, we started off by putting in the plate, but then we asked ourselves, can the plate see? If it can feel temperature, if it can feel movement, if it can sense, weight, what if we gave it the ability to see? And what we did is we created a camera to look onto the product. But then one of our engineers said, no, turn the camera to look outward. If you take a look at that, that's a little camera there. You see over here? That over there? That's a little 3D printed camera with a 172-degree viewing angle. And when we switched that on, and we took some machine learning and some libraries, we started seeing how many people walk by. We could see how many people were walking by, and we counted that all day, every day. Then we started looking a little bit more carefully. We could pick up, what were these people? We picked up, are they female or male? What's their gender? What's their ethnicity? Right? What are they wearing? Are they wearing Under Armour? Are they wearing Nike? Are they together? What's in their shopping bags? We could start picking up facial expressions, sentiment. Are they happy? Are they sad? And we could do this all in real time. And that changed everything, because not only could we see interaction, but we could see around who was interacting with us. Now this has huge privacy issues, right? This is huge violation issues. But we don't care about that. We care about IP, right? That we'll deal with later on, because we're good, right? Technologists are good people. But you see, that's the challenge. When we started, and you know what we discovered when we started building this technology? There was nothing standing in our way. There was no IP legislation. There was no cyber security. There was no privacy legislation. There was no GDPR. There was nothing. We could do this, and we could capture information in real time. We could pick up that Caucasian females average age 40, and these days of the week would shop X amount of this product if the traffic outside was like this and the weather outside was like that in real time. We could do predictive analytics, so we could stock the shelves with products in real time relative to what we saw. Now, if you take a look at the deployment on this, in this retail store, they combined this product with products at the bottom. Now, those products at the bottom are female. When we did this, you know what we discovered? That the majority of the people that buy this product are black males, average age 40. And then it changed completely, so the deployment looked like that. So now you see at the bottom, it's, the stuff that guys like, that makes big with muscles, etc. It wasn't female products, so it changed the layout inside of the store. But notice, the eye went away, and we melted it into the screen. And when we melted it into the screen, we thought, whoa, we have a little screen, we can have a big screen. And now when you walk past, you will see content relative to who you are. If you're a Caucasian female, average age 45, the ads that will play on the big screen are very different from a black male, average age 20. So content rendered to the person based upon who they are. Now this is creepy, right? But it's really cool, right? And that's the challenge with technology. The more you give it, the more personalized your experience is. The less you give it, the worse your experience is. And this is the challenge that we have, generally speaking, as technologists, because we keep capturing this data. Now let me show you how it looks in real time. So when you walk into that store, you'll see there's the products. You see the screen. As I come closer to the screen, it changes. And because I'm a guy, it will show me a guy-orientated content. It won't show me female-orientated content. All right, that's in real time. Then I want to show you interaction at the shelf. So as you walk to the shelf and you pick up the product, the screen will change in real time, and then you put in your email address, and it will send you a PDF of the recipe in real time. Or you could pay right there at the shelf. Or you could do a QR code, and you can do a loyalty thing right there. This is artificial intelligence executing at the edge of a retail shelf. This is real. This is not coming. This is happening today. And this is happening in South Africa. We've got 7 patents associated with this that we've not been granted, we filed. So, technology moves exponentially, right? We always talk about Moore's Law. Every 18 months, processor speed doubles and the price halves. Everyone knows Moore's Law, right? But the one that everyone ignores is by a professor from the Nordics. I can't type his name because I can't find the keys on my keyboard. But he's an IBM geek, and he's from one of the Scandinavian countries. And he came up with storage capacity. Storage capacity on a device doubles every 13 months, but its form factor stays the same. So just like Moore's law, you've got storage capacity laws. Let me say that again. Every 13 months, storage capacity on a device doubles, but its form factor stays the same. And you can see the rate of innovation here. That's in 1956. Look at this, 1 terabit today. I mean, 1 terabyte of data is a lot of data. 1 terabyte of data can store all music ever generated by mankind on a single phone. All music ever generated by mankind can go into a phone today, and you click play, and it will play for 85 years. Non-stop music. The next iPhone that will come out will store 120 years of video on a single handheld device. 120 years of video will go on a single handheld device. You keep going with this, you'll be able to store an entire lifetime of information on a non-organic piece of thing inside of you. When you die, on your gravestone, there'll be a QR code, and we can go take a look at your entire life. Wouldn't that be cool? You know, Facebook for the dead. Right? No? Creepy? Okay, so it's just incredible, the rate of change. And this is the story. And it's not stopping. And what's happening is it is changing the architecture of the internet. The internet's architecture is changing. So go with me now. Over the next few slides, I'm going to talk about a lot of technologies, and then I'm going to make the story come together. Okay, I'm going to tell you about quite a few things. This is about storage. Now, we keep talking about cloud in the sky. This is changing it to cloud in your hand. Now, let me give you an interesting statistic. Over the last 3 years, the majority of internet traffic in the world is giving, not taking. Let me say that again. The majority of internet traffic in the world is giving, not taking. People are creating more content on the edges of the network than they are creating inside the network. Why? Because we now have these glowing rectangles in our hands that give us superpowers. Right? That you take a selfie, right? What's the first thing you touch in the morning? What's the last thing you touch at night? Right? It's your phone. You're already extended. You're already augmented. When you lose your phone, how do you feel? Right? You go crazy. Right? You panic. I mean, in your brain, you get a phantom limb syndrome. It's like losing an arm. You can still feel the arm, but it's gone. When you lose your phone, it's like, where is it? It's the exact same thing. We already extended. It's going to change the architecture of the internet. You are no longer, in my opinion, in the next 5 to 10 years, I don't think the internet will look like it is, where you have a machine, a thin pipe, and a big fat cloud. No. I think what you'll have big data repositories on the edges inside of things. Not the internet of things, the internet inside of things. You will buy a car with screens at the back and not with a cartridge to put DVDs or a USB stick in. No. You'll buy a car with screens, and inside the car will come a subscription of all of the Disney movies, all the HBO Maxes, etc. And all you do is you pay a subscription, and it will unlock the information in the vehicle. Technology makes things go away. I'm going to talk about that in a second. The future of technology is the dissipation of technology. It's when it disappears, then it has its impact on humanity, not when we're engaging with it more. And I'll talk about that in a second. So let me talk about this electricity. If you want to know kind of where we are and where we're going, we've been here before. There's a beautiful book written by a lady whose name I forget. It's called Empires of Light. It's an MIT dissertation that she did for a PhD. The book is called Empires of Light. Get it. It's an incredible book. But what she talks about is when we discovered electricity, what happened until electricity had its impact on the Industrial Revolution. It had about 48 to 50 years when we knew about it, Tesla and all those people, it didn't have its true impact. It took a while. And you know who were the first people to make money from electricity? You think it was Tesla? Or those guys? No. Let me tell you, it was hackers. Hackers made money. That was the first time electricity was monetized. You paid a penny to go to the market or the fair, to go to the tent behind the tent, and you opened up the flap, you went inside, and there was Tesla's arc. Vroom, vroom, right? And the guy that opened up, he had a nose ring, he had tattoos, weird-looking guy, and you went inside there, and your hair raised up, and you came out the tent like, wow. That was the first time electricity was monetized. It was when people, mystical people, were rendering it at state fairs magically. First time. That was the first. The second time electricity was monetized, after that, you know what happened? Rich people. Downtown Manhattan, they started hiring electrical hackers to make electricity in their basements and their ceilings. And why? Because when you had lights in your house, you have money. Affluency, wealth, was depicted by ambience, light. But it was loud, it was smelly, people's houses burnt down, right? It was crazy. And then the government came and said, whoa, 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 stop. And then we had our third step. First was the domain of the few, mystical. Second step was what? The rich. Just like today with your iPhones. You don't know what to do with them, but it looks really cool, right? You go into meetings and like, wow, look at this, and you put it on the table and everything, right? It's exactly the same. It's the domain of the wealthy. First the domain of the mystical, then the domain of the wealthy. And when it gets to become fully penetrative, when it has its impact, you know what happens? It disappears. You don't touch it, or your hair raises up. You don't have it in your home, where everything up. You know what happens? It gets put onto a cloud, an electrical grid. That's what the government did. They put it on an electrical grid. They communicated it over vast distances. They created a standard called what? Not TCP/IP, AC/DC. So you could plug things into it. And then they came up with a per minute utilization, a commercial model. And then suddenly electricity was everywhere, but nowhere. Today we don't know where it's coming from, right? We don't know where the light is, but it's okay because we use it when we switch it on and we switch it off. That's exactly how technologies move. Everything is moving into the cloud. We add an electrical grid. And that made technology disappear. Now I've got electricity in my watch. I've got electricity in my car. It's not the electricity of things, it's the electricity in things. So now we don't care about what it is. What do we care about? We care about its consequences. We care about what does it infer? What does it incur? And that's exactly where we are from a technological perspective. It makes things go away. Technology makes things disappear. Do you remember when you bought a PC in the 90s? You went home, right? You put your tower, your keyboard, your mouse, and you connected to the internet, and it screamed. Remember those days, right? Your experience with the internet was physical, right? You touched. There was a keyboard, a mouse, a screen. There was the tower. You put discs, physical discs. You took it out the bag. Remember what it was installing, right? It was like loud, sensory. You touched everything. And then fast forward to today. You go to South Africa. You see a poor guy walking into the iStore. You see him walking into the Samsung store, and he walks out with a glowing rectangle. Access to thousands of applications, a deep multimedia experience. There's no keyboard, there's no mouse, there's no external screen, there's no screaming. He's just connected. See, technology dematerializes. It converges things together, and in its dissipation, it becomes more societally impactful. Now everyone, you go to South Africa, you see a guy in the back of a taxi, a poor taxi, and you see him at the back, and he's got a Samsung Galaxy S10. Right? And he's on social media, and he's taking selfies, and he's looking up things, he's on the internet. That's incredible. Just a few years ago, it was only the domain of the rich. Only the rich had access to that technology. Let me give you another example. Geo, the technology of geo, the ability to move from point A to B. Remember in the 90s, some of you still do it this way. It's okay. Remember, you used to have a map book. Remember, you used to buy a vehicle, and in the vehicle you open up, there used to be a map book in the vehicle. You take the map book out, you put it on your lap, you see 8, 10, where are we now? It was good. It didn't need a signal, no battery. It never needed a reboot. It's incredible. So some of you that are still doing it today, it's okay. All right. But that was a map book. Our first time we touched the technology of geo was physical. We touched it. Then we moved what? It became what? Digital. But when it became digital, it was military. Remember the first Garmins that came out? They had fat aerials. And you used to go to meetings with your Garmin, right? It had no purpose, but it was cool. Right? So you used to go to meetings and you'd walk in and you put it, and it would tell you where you were, where your steps, and the screen was monochrome. And it was just a really cool device, but it was very expensive. I remember when I got my first one, everyone thought I was cool. I went to meetings and I put it down on the table and people would say, wow, and the girls liked it, so I'd use it, and it was exactly. So it moved from physical, then when it moved to digital, military, then it was very expensive. And then what did we have after that? TomTom, Google Maps, right? On your phone, everywhere. Google Maps, etc. You even have, I have a Garmin. My Garmin can tell me when I'm running in Brazil where I am, and here in Sao Paulo. Geo is now in me. It's all over me. It's in your phone. You can go everywhere. But what's the big step after that? What's the big next step for Geo? I'll never forget working for Google. And I went to Mountain View, California. It was a surprise presentation. And we were sitting in the audience, and Larry and Sergey came up. And you know who came on the stage? A blind guy. Came on the stage, and he stood next to them. And you know what he did? He called the car, the self-driving car. The car came onto the stage. The blind guy opened the door, got into the car, and he told the car, take me to Taco Bell. And it drove off the stage, and the cameras on the screen watched, took him to Taco Bell. 15 minutes later, he was on the stage with his Taco Bell in his hand. We did not touch Geo in a book. He did not experience Geo visually. He didn't engage with it in his watch. He spoke to it. It became a consequential technology. You see, when technology disappears, it becomes more available. It becomes more accessible. Then it truly has its impact. The future of Geo isn't a better Google Maps. The future of Geo is when it disappears, just like electricity, and it becomes the self-driving car. That's the impact that we're seeing right now. It's the dissipation and the disappearance into this. People ask me, what's the next generation user interface for technology? It's that. It's when you speak to it. You don't open up an app or go to a website, you speak to it. The user interface now is sensory. It understands temperature, it understands voice. You know how I catch an Uber in South Africa? I have 5 of these in my house. You know when I want an Uber? I don't go to the Uber website. I don't even go to the Uber app on my phone. I fasten my laces in the morning and I say, Alexa. She says, yes, Stafford. I said, Uber, I'm going to number 2 Santon Drive. He says, hey, Mike is on his way. He's driving this car, and he'll be here in the next 4 minutes. I take my bag. I take everything. I walk out the door. She says, Stafford, Mike's outside. I run outside. I get into the cab. I speak to Mike. The whole way driving to where I'm going, I jump out. I go to my meeting, and I get a little message saying, you've paid Mike $10. I didn't take out my phone to pay better, right? I didn't scan a QR code. No, it was all invisible. I summoned the technology. I spoke it into existence. The future of the internet is sensory. The future of technology is not engaging with it more. The future of it is engaging it in a consequential way. I don't care about the mobile app. I don't care about the phone. I don't care about the technology behind it. I speak it into existence. This is going to happen more and more. In my house, my kids ask questions. When I watch at dinner, when they ask questions and we argue, they ask Alexa, and then Alexa answers. But I'll give you an example. When I watch Fareed Zakaria on CNN on a Sunday, and he has his book recommendations, and I watch his show, right? I watch it, and I listen to his, and then, as he says, if I like the book, I go, Alexa, Amazon, I say the book name, and I buy it. And then on my phone, I see the book downloaded on my Kindle app, and I can start reading it before the show even ends. It's not more technology, less. And when we have less technology, then it dissipates, and everyone has access to it. Now we have to think about the consequence. Now we have to think about the humanities aspect of it, not what it is. Let's keep going. Here's a company that from an IP perspective is a very interesting company. I lecture at some of the universities in South Africa to the MBAs and the executive MBA program, and I speak about this a lot. Remember when Kodak declared bankruptcy? So what I always ask the students is, what killed Kodak? Because Kodak was incredible. You guys did a lot of work for Kodak. Kodak's patent arsenal, their IP was the best in the industry. In fact, their IP arsenal was equal to IBM. What happened to Kodak? Kodak had incredible IP. Oh, Kodak had the first digital camera. What happened to Kodak? Kodak declared bankruptcy. What killed Kodak? When I ask that question, it's normally a lecture that's 2 days. But today I'm going to try and do it in 2 minutes. I'll tell you what killed Kodak. Kodak was so focused in sitting in the boardroom with people like you, IP lawyers, and making sure everything was protected. What they didn't understand was what was happening on the outside of their firewall. What was happening to us on the outside of their firewall. This is the point that I'm trying to make. Leadership in businesses today, because of technology, have to understand humanity more. Let me say that again. The burden on organizations today to define a competitive edge, to differentiate themselves, is not to build better technology. It's to understand humanity more. Why? Because technology has surpassed on the outside versus on the inside. You hire someone into your organization, a young person, a Gen Z, they come in with a tablet and a phone, you give them a Windows machine with a Microsoft Exchange, with an attachment limit of 5 megs. They can only log on after 3 months to all the systems. They can't do this, they can't, but outside they can do anything. They have unlimited mailboxes, unlimited attachment. They can log in everywhere with their Twitter account, their Facebook account, their TikTok account. You see, technology on the outside has surpassed you. So you can't keep up. So what you need to do is understand what's happening on the outside to unleash the latent potential for your business on the inside. Now, this business died because of it. This business had the yellow camera with all the IP and all the patents that could go deeper underwater and flash brighter. That was what their focus was. What they didn't understand is Stafford on the outside was taking a cell phone, and yes, the camera wasn't great. It was a crap picture, right? So I take a selfie, but I don't care because I could take that picture and I could put it somewhere where everyone could click the like button. What Kodak didn't get, what was happening with me being augmented with bad technology. See, don't underestimate bad technology. Don't look at Bitcoin and think, whatever, it's going to go away. I saw this in the late 90s. People looked at the internet and said, nah, this thing's going to go away. Don't do that. When you see people adopting technology, they do it not because of the technology's sake. They do it because the technology allows them to express their humanity. When I have the capability to take a picture and put it on a social media stream and people can click the like button, that changes the dynamic of what I've just done. I don't care about the quality anymore. I care about the participation. I care about the human engagement and the expression. Right? The news changed. It wasn't reporting and journalism changed because of it. But just think about that for a second. You value putting something on a social media stream more than anything else. Why? Why is social media so popular? We call it social media, but why is social media so popular? That killed Kodak, by the way. You know why? Because I could take my bad picture and I could put it somewhere and I can click the like button. When I click the like button, how do I feel? How do you feel when I take your picture and I click the like button? You feel good, right? When I take your tweet and I retweet it, you feel great. When I take a look at your picture of your child and I write underneath there, oh, cute, how do you feel? You feel good. So which makes you feed and feed and feed more information into the cloud. Why? It's allowing us to express our humanity, because I'll tell you what. You know what killed Kodak? Humanity. Let me explain this for a second. Every single one of you in this room, no matter how nicely you are dressed and how nicely you look and how nice you smell, every one of you needs 3 things. Number one, every one of you want to feel a part of something. Community. That's why when someone clicks the like button on Facebook, you feel part of something. The second thing is, every single one of you wants to be recognized. Attribution. Someone takes your tweet, retweets it, I'm recognized. Right? So number one is all of you want to feel a part of something, community. Number 2 is every one of you want attribution, recognition. And the third thing that every single one of you in this room needs is the notion that you will never be forgotten, your legacy. What social media is, it's no different from the man or woman that walked into the cave, put clay in their mouth, put their handprint on and spat, or painted in the cave wall. Why? Why did we do that? Because we never wanted to be forgotten. We wanted to express ourselves. It's no longer cave walls, it's digital walls. It's real-time, global, digital walls. Our caves have now become these things that we can take selfies and put it on our walls. We can put our food that we're eating, where we are, etc. We put all of these things up there. Why? Because you are no different, instinctively, on a human level, than the person that walked into the cave, that wanted to feel a part of something, that wanted to be recognized and never be forgotten. And you think this is just a joke? This is just social media? No. Open source software is driven by this very notion. Why do people write code? for free. Every single one of your glowing, if you have an iPhone, if you have an Android phone, the kernel, the operating system that runs on there, who writes that? Apple and Google? No. That is written by people freely on the outside. The internet, cloud, it runs on Linux. The protocols on the internet, HTTP, HTML, SMTP. Who writes that? Who defines that? A corporation? No. It's people writing poetry for free. It's people writing code for free. Because they can. And you know why they do it? I don't know. Why do people climb mountains? Why do people climb walls? Why do people do hikes? Why do we do what we do? You know why? Because we want to feel a part of, we want to be recognized, and we never want to be forgotten. That's why we do it. That is driving technological change on the outside of your businesses. It's not a technological story. It's a human story. Now let's keep going with that. I wanted to show you the cave, man. This is a big one. This is in healthcare. And I put this slide in here because I think I had a conversation with some of you about healthcare, just to give you an understanding of how healthcare is changing. Now, I'm going to get to a point where I'm going to show you the technological changes that's going to impact IP portfolios. Because what we're going to do is we're going to see organizations changing. The way organizations define asset classes, intangible asset classes, are going to change. The way organizations are going to become competitive is not by doing things organically. You know how they're going to do it? Non-organically. The most valuable businesses that exist today are not businesses that organically do well. And I'll show you now in a second. But let's talk about this, the healthcare industry. Take a look at this, right? 1% of global healthcare in the world is what? Diagnosis. 99% is treatment. Let me repeat that. That's a World Health Organization statistic. In the world of medical insurance and health application in the world today, the statistic says 1% is diagnosis in the entire world, and 99% is treatment. That's bad. That's really bad, right? And technology is doing something, not healthcare companies. You know what's happening? As us weighing these things. My heart rate, you see on the stage, my heart rate is being monitored right now by my watch. It knows how I slept. It knows how many steps I've walked. It knows everything about me. It knows the oxygen levels in my blood. It knows my blood pressure. And it keeps capturing that information. That is going to change everything on the outside of healthcare. Healthcare is going to swap from 199 to 99.1, and the 99 will be diagnosis, and the 1% will be targeted, data-driven, AI coagulated treatment. It will be less doctors in the world, but a whole lot more nurses. A doctor won't be a doctor with a 9-year degree and X amount of experience. No, a doctor will be a nurse with a 2-year diploma, augmented by disparate species of AIs that will come to your house, ring your bell, and say, Stafford, stop. You need to take this pill now because we can see something is about to happen. That's where healthcare is going, predictive. I'll give you an example. I have the Garmin app. There's an app for Garmin. When I go into a restaurant and I eat a particular piece on the menu, a food type, a menu item, it asks me after 2 hours, how do you feel? And I say, I feel great, or I feel lethargic, or I feel tired. It keeps capturing this information. You know what happens? The next time I'm in that area, I go into that restaurant, I sit down, my watch goes bzz, bzz. I look down, I look at my phone, it says, stay away from menu item 2 and 3, because if you eat it, you're going to feel lethargic in the next 2 to 3 hours. See, 99% self-diagnosis. Disparate species of AI is taking all our data sets that we're rendering all the time and then giving us predictive outcomes. That's the future of healthcare. The future of healthcare is a human story. It's not a HIPAA story in the United States or some big healthcare company story elsewhere in the world. It's not an IP story either. It's a redefinition of how intellectual property exists in the healthcare sector. This is me taking control of my electronic patient health record and translating that to an NFT. What if my patient health record was an NFT? And what if I took my NFT and I combined it with my peripheral? And what if all those sensors out there could then give me predictive healthcare? Would I pay for that more than what I'm paying now? Maybe I'll pay less, and there'll be more of us doing it. It recreates an entire new industry. AI. We talk about AI all the time. Now remember, we're still doing this at the moment, right? I'm going to bring it together in a second. AI. Everyone talks about AI. AI. But AI isn't, you go there and there's Blue playing against Kasparov. Or you go over here, it's Watson, disseminating X-rays or radiological information better than a radiologist in a hospital. That is an AI. But that's not AI. AI is not a singular intelligence with a lot of machines put into it, or GPUs, or processing power inside of it. AI is plural. It's artificial intelligences. Intelligence is not singular. Intelligence is not, you get a squirrel that knows where to bury its food, then we say it's smart. Then we get a chimpanzee, which has got a higher IQ. Then you get Stafford, normal guy, IQ, and then on and you get Einstein. That's not intelligence. Intelligence is combinatorial. Intelligence is collective. Intelligence is diverse. It's a diversity of competencies coming together to give you a particular render. We think about AI in this singular way, and I think that's where we make mistakes. The way we need to define AI is to take a look at AI as disparate species of artificial intelligences. And what our glowing rectangles are giving us is the capability to access these services and to redefine businesses. Now, it's creating a new architecture for business, which I'm going to get to in a second. I'm going to talk about the big companies. I'm going to talk about what's coming next because of that. So remember this. AI is plural. AI is not singular. Yes, a singular AI redefines everything. We had horsepower, one horse. And then we have electrification, which gave us the what? The engine. So now we can sit on our bum in a car and we have access to 500 horses. Fast forward to today, what is it? It's cognition. 500 minds in the vehicle. And then what you have an autonomous driving car. Right? You went from organic, animal power, then you get what? Electrification, and then you get this cognification. And that redefines everything. Do you know we always talk about access versus ownership? Like people don't want to own things anymore. They want to access things. Right? I have a 21-year-old. She doesn't want to own anything. She doesn't want to own music. She just wants my credit card with Spotify. When I grew up, it was CDs and LPs and, vinyl. She doesn't give a damn about that. She doesn't want a car. She wants an Uber app with my credit card. They don't want to own things anymore. They want to access things. And because of that, it's going to redefine how businesses are on the outside, which will redefine who they are organically on the inside. Now, first of all, this thing in your hand, this thing that you call a phone, don't call it a phone. Okay? I asked the translators, I gave them this. Call it a real-time, peripheral, sensory rendering engine. I explained it to them and they said they're going to translate it. It's a peripheral, real-time, sensory rendering engine. That is not a phone. That thing has capabilities unlike anything that we've ever seen. It can feel. You can speak to it. It can see. When I was at Google, I'll never forget it. You could pick up, it was Google Voice. You could pick up and say, Pizza, Johannesburg, Bryanston. And then you look at your phone and it'll show you all the pizza shops. Right? You could we had Google Eye. You could point it at things. Right? And it could find things on the internet. You pointed at people, it would find people that look like that on the internet. You pointed at me, it looks for pictures for Barack Obama. I don't know why. We need to teach the cloud that not all colored guys look the same. Yeah, so the cloud can see, it can feel. This is an incredible tool, right? And this is making all that's happening on the edges of the network happening, right? Now, that's all the technologies out there. I love what Accenture says. This rate of change of innovation, they defined it. The benchmark for innovation excellence as being a company for which 75% of current revenue comes from business activities within the last 3 years. So let me say it this way. Whatever innovation you are doing right now needs to equal 75% of your revenue in the next 36 months. If you don't match that, then you're not innovative, according to Accenture. That's an incredible statistic. That's the rate of change that organizations have to go through. So how do you do this? How do you keep up with this? Now, a lot of businesses look at this and go, that is impossible. Yes, it's impossible if you think about doing it organically yourself only. But if you look at building not products and services, if you look at building ecosystems that allow for latent human potential to unlock and cascade into your business, then you can keep up with this. Then you can make things that were previously impossible. Let's keep going. Look at these technological companies, right? Apple in 2018, I'll never forget this. I saw this tweet come out. What? $1 trillion. Then they passed Saudi Aramco. $2 trillion. Incredible, right? Look at this, $100 billion club. Mass concentration of wealth. Incredible. Take a look at this. Productivity is through the roof, but hourly compensation stagnating. We're doing more with less humans. Not sustainable. Then we're doing this. 28% of all the dollars in 2010 were printed. Right? That statistic, the majority of all US dollars in the world in circulation today was printed in the last 2.5 years. This is not sustainable. We can't keep going on like this. Right? Inflation. Take a look at this. If you were born in 1947, $1 is now equal to 7.4 cents. That's a graph just to show you. Now, if you're from Argentina, you know what we're talking about. If you're from Venezuela, you know what we're talking about. All right? Deplatforming and being disintermediated is a very real thing. Take a look at this. The 7 largest cap stocks versus the next 500. Look at this concentration. 9.9 trillion versus 29 trillion. That's in 7 organizations versus the next 500. That's incredible. Take a look at profit generated by these businesses per day. Apple's generating $279 million of profit per day. It's incredible. We've never seen anything like this. Right? Look at global ad revenue, and guess who's catching up, who's gone beyond global ad revenue newspapers? Amazon. Amazon now makes more money versus them. I didn't put in Google in there, and I'm not putting Apple, just Amazon alone. That's incredible, the statistics. Okay, I'm not going to go through Apple again, but this, I put this in last night because this is incredible. Facebook's 2020 profits equaled the sum of 2020 profits of Citibank, Walmart, and General Motors combined. Now, if that surprises you, last year, Apple, Microsoft earned 3 to 2 times Facebook's 2020 profits, respectively. That's insane. We've never seen this before. We kind of have, but we've never seen this before. We saw it in 1965, around that area, the 5 largest tech stocks. We did see something similar, but you know what that was? That was pure capital. What's different now is attention. We've never seen human harvesting on this level in the history of humanity. This slide blows my mind. The top 5 market cap companies versus the rest of the S&P 500. That's incredible. That's astonishing. What is this, though? Right? If you take a look at those companies, what are they? If you if you took all our tweets out of Twitter, what is Twitter? If you took all our videos out of YouTube, what did YouTube be? If you took all our stuff off the internet, what did Google be? If you took all our apps out of the App Store, what would Apple be? If you took all the businesses out of AWS, what would Amazon be? Keep going. These are businesses that have a different, they're platform. They're combinatorially innovative. They are ecosystems. These are not businesses that give us core products and we buy it like we did in the Industrial Revolution days, right? These are architectures of participation. These are businesses that allow you and I to take tools to express ourselves on top of their platform. They've redefined intellectual property. They've redefined asset classes. They've redefined how we measure them. We don't know how to properly measure this. When Facebook IPO'd, it IPO'd with over 2 billion customers in the platform. What happened on the stock exchange? The price went down because the algorithms didn't know what to do with a company this size. These are nation states. These are people that have more of our attention. If I change this graph away from market cap and I put attention in there, I reckon these companies would consume 99% of the world's global attention versus any other company in the entire world. The attention graph would change everything completely. Yet, those companies are us, not alone. Because they take our stuff and they put it into their infrastructures and deliver it out to us, which is quite profound. I mean, if you take our stuff out of Facebook, Facebook's a really crappy app. Like, it's real crap. It's like a bad app. But what's in it? It's our stuff. We keep putting stuff in there to make it this incredible experience. If you take a look at this, I'm sure some of you have seen this because you're IP folks. But if you take a look at 1975 through to 2020, and you take a look at intangible assets currently account for 90% of the S&P 500 total value. It's incredible, right? Patents, brand value, customer data, software now makes up 90% of the market versus, tangible assets on the left-hand side. This is a redefinition in front of our eyes literally in the last decade. This happened in the last 10 years. It's astonishing. So, it's creating new architectures. So when I showed you this slide over here, right, this one over here, these businesses are businesses of today, but they're being challenged with businesses of right now. Google is a business of today. I'll never forget it. You remember when the plane landed in the Hudson River in New York? That emergency landing? They made a movie about it. I'll never forget, I was at Google at the time when that happened. And we panicked. You know why? Because when that happened, all the information was on Twitter and Facebook, not in Google. The Google search there was no website, nothing. And we looked at that and we went, oh my word, our business has been surpassed. Because we are business of today. Later that day, it was on websites, and we picked it up. But businesses of right now were picking it up. People were on the aeroplane taking selfies. People in the buildings looking at the plane were Facebook living it. And Google was left behind. Now, that is amazing platforms, but here's the next generation. Now, the next generation of business looks like this. This is the map. It's not big data. It's not platform. The next generation of businesses are what I call algorithmic marketplaces. Now, if you take that map, I made this map, but if you take that map and you put Uber in, it looks like this. Uber is not a cab company with an app. If you define Uber that way, you've missed it. It's not. Uber is a combinatorially innovative company. It is a company that takes, now I know all of you are going to look at this slide and stick there. I'm going to stop. Let me stop reading that slide. Okay, I'm going to come back. Let me talk about Uber. You know when you catch an Uber ride, right? Let's just talk about the Uber driver. In South Africa, an Uber driver comes from Malawi. He's never been in South Africa. He comes to Uber, he gets citizenship, he buys a Toyota Corolla, a nice car, he rings the bell at Uber and he says, I want to be an Uber driver. You know? Uber doesn't say, do you know South Africa? Do you know how to get from point A to B? Can you read and write? Uber doesn't care about that. Uber says, you've got a driver's license and a car. Yes, okay, cool. Then they check, they do background checks, and then you get what? A driver's unique code. And you walk out of Uber, and you get into the car, and you know what you do? You open up the Uber app for the driver, you put in the code, boom, and it says, hey, Stafford, let me show you where to go park to get rides in the quickest amount of time. That driver, who does that driver work for? A person at Uber? A manager at Uber? No. It works for the Uber algorithm. It works for the Uber AIs. Not artificial intelligence, AI. And it tells that driver how to get from point A to B. When you get in the car, he says address, and you get in, start the ride, and it tells you where to go, avoiding traffic in the best way. You don't even know the city, but it will tell you exactly how to drive. That's incredible. We've never seen power like that. But the power of Uber, when I talk about the next generation business, is when you, as a consumer, open up the Uber app, and then you want a ride. Have you seen sometimes it shows surge pricing when it's more expensive? You know why? Because the density of people asking for rides versus cabs in that area, the AI looks at that and says, oh my word, I don't have cabs. And so it increases the price in real time. Nobody at Uber knows how this works, by the way. Nobody at Uber understands how this works anymore. Just like at Google, no one understands how PageRank works anymore. Just like NASDAQ, no one understands how the stock exchange works anymore. Okay, these businesses don't understand. But you know what happens? When you look for a ride, it says, oh, it's going to be 10% more. 20. You say, okay. You know what happens? All the Uber drivers get notifications, and like bees to honey, right? They go, and then they start, when they start their engines to move to you, you know what happens? The price comes down. Settles back down again. No human being can do that. But how does that work? When you install the Uber app on your phone, you give Uber, you know when you go, yes, 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 accept, 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 all of you, right? You don't read, you just yes, 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 yes. You know what happens? You are sharing with Uber where you are all the time. As you move, when you go to bed, when you wake up, when you have the Uber app, you're sharing that with Uber all the time. You are federating real-time information into Uber's AIs all the time. When you book a ride, they take that information. They look at where their drivers are. Then they get the statistical analysis, and then they take their big data lakes, and then they start creating an algorithmic marketplace to deliver a transportation service that was previously unimagined. That's when you say, like, the New York taxi guys, they said, okay, we'll build an app. You don't understand the architecture of this business. And this is the architecture of the next generation of businesses out there. And from an intellectual property perspective, you're going to have to rethink everything. Because innovation is combinatorial. Participation as a consumer of the service is not just static anymore. It's now you sharing so much, and you're giving so much, and that data set gets federated with all the other data sets to create an experience that was previously impossible. That's the structure of the business in the new economy. Not like these guys. These guys are old. These are platforms. These are architectures of participation. Uber and its structure is the way things work now. Let's keep going. Now, I'm going to skip over this. This is just the amount. I'm going to skip over this just for time. Now, this is one I want to talk about. And this is one that's really big. And we spoke about AIs. We've spoken about a lot of things, right? This is one that's, to me, I've been in the internet since the early 90s. I was lucky in my career. I came back from Israel. I studied computer science in Israel. I came back to South Africa in 93, 94. And I was lucky. I worked at a big telco, and we saw the internet without a browser. I saw the internet without a browser. It was incredible. We ran around telling everyone about the internet, and they were like, what? Go away. Then the internet got a browser, and then everyone had the internet, had a browser, and it was wow, 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 wow. We saw it happening all the way through. And we're there again. We're in 1999, and this time it's not the internet of information. It's an internet of value exchange. And let me tell you something. This is the biggest thing that has ever happened to us, technologically speaking, as a human race. Ever. Fire, wheel, Bitcoin. Now you may look at me and go, no, it's big. The exchange of value without an intermediary more securely than we've ever done in the history of mankind, that is an extraordinary power. Let me talk about that. And I love this when someone says, yeah, do we really need a bank in our pocket? Do we really need home computers? We asked that question before, right? This is why. It dematerializes everything and makes things go away. There's 1.6 billion in gold. There's 1.6 billion in Bitcoin. Okay, I love this. This is a funny one. I put it up there. You're an arsehole, John. Other guys are starting their own businesses and just messing around with, and you messing around with Bitcoin. You seriously think you're smarter than them? We're breaking up. That was in 2011. Then she texts him again saying, hi, John, how are you? 2017. Everyone thinks this Bitcoin thing is just going to go away. It's not going to go away. This is bigger than the internet. This is 1,000 to the power of 1,000 times bigger than the internet. It's going to redefine asset classes. It's going to redefine intellectual property. It's going to redefine how we manage it. It's going to redefine how people put their own creativity into systems. We're already seeing it with music artists. They're not depending on record labels and what you guys do with them to protect them. They're putting it into what? Into smart contracts. And then signing those smart contracts themselves. And then that thing lives forever. And whoever sells it, they get a percentage in perpetuity. This is incredible. It's not going to go away. Don't underestimate it. This is what it normally, this is the trend. This is big companies. They go, BlackRock CEO, Bitcoin is money laundering. 2021, they're bullish on blockchain, but not Bitcoin. 2022, BlackRock picks Coinbase with direct Bitcoin exposure. You keep seeing, like, you'll see Warren Buffett. He calls it snake oil or he calls it rat poison. Give him another 2-3 years. Watch what happens. Right? When we don't understand things, let's just see some statistics. In 2021, the transaction value on Bitcoin versus Visa. Bigger than Visa now. Right? Take a look at that. Settled $2 trillion worth of BTC in July. You know, it's just, the size is just, it's enormous. But here's what astounds me. The transfer of $80 million and you pay a $4 fee on the Bitcoin network. And it keeps coming down. It's not going away. This is the amount of people adopting it versus the internet growth. We're seeing the same trajectory. Right? I just put that up there because banks are freaking out. This is the nodes on the network. I'm not going to talk about like how Bitcoin's been used by refugees and people being deplatformed and they're utilizing it to escape countries. We've seen that over and over. And there's some books to read. I want to talk about something that's pivotal. How much time do I have? Because the clock's saying is it 5 minutes. Okay, cool. Now, I want to end with this because this is important. And this is going to bring it all together. You said I could have more time last night. 10, I can have 10. Is that okay, everyone? Can I have 10? Okay, brilliant. Okay, fantastic. So let me talk about something. And this, Erica asked me to specifically speak about this when she briefed me. She said, you got to talk about that. And people have asked me this question over and over. What is happening right now? In the last 2.5 years, none of us have ever gone through what we've experienced before. What has happened in the world? And what has happened from a technology perspective? And the only way I can tell you what's happened is to take a look at a time when things were similar. In principle. Not similar exactly, but in principle. So from a technological change perspective, the only time I went back, now I remember I did this and it was a shower moment and I went, wait a minute, I remember in 2007 and I looked at 2007. Something happened in 2007. In fact, three things happened in 2007 that is very similar to what happened during the pandemic that is going to tell us where things are going over the next decade. So what happened in 2007? Take a look at this. This was November the 12th, 2007. Nokia, 1 billion customers. Who can catch the cell phone king? That was November 2007. Then, this is the first thing that happened, technologically speaking, in 2007. This guy got up on stage December 2007, and he showed us a device that we had never seen before, the iPhone. Now, what made the iPhone incredible was the power that it had, sure, but what was incredible was the App Store. He didn't give us a product. What did he give us? He gave us an ecosystem. It was a combinatorial, innovative organization. It was a collective intelligence. It wasn't just the iPhone. It was all our apps and services on the iPhone. Think about that for a second. The net asset value of Apple versus all the businesses in the App Store combined, Apple is less. If you take a look at Amazon's AWS, their cloud services, all the businesses in AWS combined outstrip Amazon. If you take a look at all the businesses on the internet, they outstrip Google. If you take all the businesses inside of Facebook, they outstrip Facebook. Keep going. The most valuable businesses in the world today are combinatorial, and the beginning of every one of those businesses was the iPhone on stage. That was the beginning. That was when the cloud wasn't no longer in the sky. The cloud was now connected with something in our hand. He gave us that. That was the big technological. We didn't understand it at the time, but that rebooted everything. It gave birth to Netflix. It gave birth to cloud computing. It gave birth to Amazon's AWS. It gave birth to social media. That single event, technologically speaking. Now, next thing that happened in 2007, number 2, more millennials worked in the workplace than any other generation in 2007. Finally, millennials were the majority of the working class. The third thing that happened in 2007, more human beings lived in cities than lived outside of cities. So if you take a look at what happened from 2007 all the way to the beginning of 2020, all the technological change, all the cool things that we've seen, everything that's happened in businesses, it happened because of those three things that happened in 2007. Now, what's the correlation? 2020, 2021. What happened? I picked up these three things, happened again. And here they are. Just like we had the iPhone, we now have this thing called the crypto network. We now have Bitcoin. And I just showed you how big that is. Don't underestimate it. It's massive. Second thing that happened, generationally speaking, see, we had millennials. Over there, we had an intergenerational hyperdigitization. Everyone went to go work from home. And everyone had to put their credit card into the internet for the first time. Because they had to get food, right? And then the third thing that happened, away from urbanization, we went to working from home. And that has now redefined everything. We were talking about it yesterday. People don't want to come back to work anymore. Yeah, the guys that have kids and they want to stay home, the young people do. What do we do? Remote workers, gig work. We are redefining everything in terms of proximity again. But the one thing I want to do is just look at that quickly. You see the old guy? But it's intergenerational, because you know what's emerging in the working class right now are these folks. Don't worry, folks, I'm ending now, okay? Are these folks, it's Gen Z. I have a 21-year-old daughter and an 18-year-old daughter. I have a very, very real understanding of this generation. This generation is the generation building the next generation of technologies. You know why? Number one, this generation went through the 2008 financial crisis. They saw it. They saw what their parents experienced. This generation doesn't believe in the financial services industry. They don't believe in banks. They think banks can deplatform you. They see it today. They saw it in 2008, and their parents still struggle today because of it. The second thing is, this is a generation, this is an important one, this is the generation that has had the greatest privacy violation in the history of humanity. Their birthdays, every holiday they ever took, every achievement that they had at school is inside of Facebook or inside of Instagram. It's inside a container that they have no rights over. Because when their mom and dad just went yes, 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 they gave up their rights. All their information lives in a digital information shadow that they have no control over. Their lives have been compromised unlike anyone that we've ever seen before. They went through the 2008 financial crisis. They've just gone through a pandemic. They've seen as much death as some people saw during World War II, if not more. climate change, right? Ukraine and Russia, inflation, deep platforming of banks. This generation feels that everything around them, materially speaking, has zero value and no future. They believe in the metaverse. They believe in non-fungible tokens. They believe in cryptocurrencies because they want to have control over their their store value, they want to control. This generation is building the metaverses. If you take a look at, remember I showed the VC investment and how big it went? You know where all that money's going in? The money's going into crypto. The money's going into NFTs. The money's going into metaverses. Who's building that technology? You and I. No, we're old. It's them. Because you know what? These kids see more value in a Nike shoe in the metaverse than they see in a Nike shoe on their feet. These kids don't want cars. They want transportation as a service. They don't want a house and real estate. They want Airbnb. They don't want music. They want Spotify. These are the ethereal generation. This is going to depict what we will see over the next decade from a technological perspective. Now, let me say this in closing. Organizationally speaking, what should we be doing? What are we seeing and where is this going? I've got 3 rules for the next generation of businesses. Number 1, don't build products and services. Build ecosystems. And I showed you what those ecosystems look like. They are combinatorially innovative. They take my glowing rectangle on the inside and they federate information into the inside. I want to make your business better. Let me in. I want to tweet about it. I want to do. So don't create products and services, create ecosystems. Second thing is, ask yourself as a business and ask yourself, are your clients' businesses this way? Do they derive less value than they create? Think about that for a second. Do they derive less value than they create? Because the most valuable businesses in the world today derive less value than they create. And then the third thing is, as much as it is about technology today, it's more so about humanity. Don't understand technology more, understand us better. Sustainability now is a human story. Sustainability of the planet, of organizations, of intellectual property, it's us. It's no longer me, 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 me. It's we. Thanks so much for your time today. Thank you. Second? Does I stay there? Okay. This for me? Okay, do I have to declare this?
Eu tenho que declarar alguma coisa? Como é que é?
Is that it?
Muito obrigada, é isso?
Yes?
É?
Thank you,
Acabou?
everyone.
Muito obrigada, hein? Thank you very much, Mrs. Stafford Macy, and we would like to invite Claudio Furtado and Gabriel Leonardos to come up to stage, and we will also have the virtual presence of the Micro and Small Enterprise Innovation Secretary of the Ministry of Finance, Mr. Bruno Monteiro Portela. We will start the first plenary session, Present and Future of ABPI, Efficiency and Investments. Gentlemen. Mr. Gabriel Leonardos has the floor. So we're going to continue. We had a very inspiring lecture. Stafford gave us this wonderful view that will allow us to speak about our country. I'd like to thank Mr. Bruno Portela, the Secretary of Innovation of SMEs, who is representing the minister who was unable to make it with us this morning. And here with us, our friend who's known to all of you, and it is an honor to have him here with us. It is like the third or fourth time he's here with us, Dr. Claudio Villar-Furtado, the president of ABPI. We will first listen to Bruno Portela. Thank you for being here with us. Thank you very much, Gabriel Leonardos. Thank you very much for this opportunity. I'm sorry I'm not there. We are in São Paulo. I am in São Paulo, but this coincided with our event. And we are benefiting from the ABPI work. So I am to thank you. I'd like to greet my friend and enthusiast of IP in Brazil, Claudio Furtado. Please receive my affectionate greetings. I apologize for not being there with you, but I will speak about the work of ABPI, the Ministry of Finance, and what we've been doing. I will speak first about our secretariat, which is one of 8. It's called CPEC. I work in productivity, and it is based on improving business, decreasing the cost country of Brazil, which is very high, and it is based on qualified human work, infrastructure, paying taxes, and then legal framework and IP. We also facilitate investments. We have in Brazil 900 billion reais contracted for the next 10 years in infrastructure project and digital future in innovation and entrepreneurship. And this has a lot to do with IP because IP management, its objective is to foster competitiveness and innovation. The interpreters apologize, but we are having very poor sound quality. We will do our best. It's getting worse, actually. So this is a transition phase of the Brazilian economy with foreign investments and high value-added Brazilian brands. It is almost impossible to translate. We have wonderful figures over the past 3 years, especially under Claudio Furtado's presidency. We have brought backlog down by 90% almost. We are assigning high priority to the work of ABPI, and we want to be moving just as fast. We have significant growth. The percentage of patents of foreign people is very high. We have discussed over the past 2 years with these challenges that we have faced in policies. Over the past 3 years, we have worked with the IP strategy, with the main actors in the country, with 17 institutions, with a group of IP.
This is a very important topic to the government, and it will continue to be a priority and strategic for Brazil. We have made great progress with our international partners, especially after the Madrid Protocol, and now we're working directly with Chairman Claudio and Chairman Gabriel in the Budapest Agreement and the Hague agreement for industrial design so that we can make even more progress in international agreements. I should also highlight the work being done through a partnership with the British government. We have fantastic partnerships with them, looking at human capital, human resources, implementing pricing systems, and improving the governance at the INPI. Apologies for the audio feed coming into the translation booth is nearly impossible to translate, so we apologize. Very important to the future, considering the new world, the Metaverse, artificial intelligence, open innovation, and the GIPI technical group is conducting in-depth work to update, and our message is that we are seeking to update the Brazilian Trademark Office together with the Ministry of Economy, other stakeholders, and we are looking for partnerships so that we can continue to update our legislation. Those are the main pillars for a healthy business environment, focusing on the best strategy for intellectual property in Brazil. That's it. Thank you so much. Apologies for not being able to make it in person, but these are our words. Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Bruno. Apologies. I have only received your bio, so I'm going to briefly share it with our participants. He's a public attorney and has an MBA in public management from the Getúlio Vargas Foundation. He was a legal consultant at Embrapa and the Brazilian Agency for International Development. So now, without further ado, let's turn it over to Mr. Furtado, Chairman of the Brazilian Trademark Office. He's a professor at the São Paulo Business School, Getúlio Vargas Foundation, holds a degree in economics from the Federal University of Rio de Janeiro, Masters of Business Economics, and a PhD from Chicago University, and a business management PhD from the Getúlio Vargas Business School. Chairman, welcome. Thank you. Thank you. Dr. Leonardos, Chairman of the Brazilian Association of Intellectual Property. Ladies, gentlemen, I was highly impacted by the previous talk because I thought the BPTO had already become an innovative organization, and the revenue came from products that had been developed in the last 5 years. At least 33% of the revenue. That's an innovative organization. We're very proud because our rating as an innovative organization has improved. We went from 41st to 6th, that between 2018 and 2021. But I confess that With this new measurement, Mr. Massey showed us 75% of the revenue should come from products developed in the past 3 years. I mean, that is a very hard thing to achieve. I believe that statistics isn't to do with innovation of trademark and patent organizations, even because trademark and patents have been around for hundreds of years. So we need to think about innovation at our organizations from different perspectives. The translation booth apologizes, but we're not getting any audio feed. We'll be back as soon as it's up again.
The interpreters apologize, but unfortunately the sound quality is not allowing for simultaneous translation. We're very sorry.
ABPI é membro, Gabriel Leonardo.
INPI is a pillar of Brazilian activities. It not only provides lectures, but it also helps those who want to improve the management of their IP, and we help them do this with quality so that we don't have a rejection level of 42% as we used to have in the past. Not because of the innovative content. So this model of work, which is anchored in a strategic project, is what we're doing. And this is not just with the purpose of increasing demand for intellectual property. We're providing training. We work together with Sebrae consultants to work with SMEs. We work together with Sebrae in the development of geographic indication for other areas. We have the service area in Brazil. So I want to say to you that INPI and this new formulation has become an agent that fosters innovation in Brazil. We also take part in a work of institutional strengthening. We send guidance to the National Congress and Senate, but the strategic group is revising the legislation in order to modernize it according to a law of the 1990s. We are also strengthening the governance model of INPI in the country, and that is valid for the whole of Brazil. We are providing support to the Ministry of Justice also through our participation in the National Council for Fighting Piracy. We feed into their database with the purpose of fighting piracy in Brazil. This is what we want to achieve with intellectual property. We want to have a research department for patented information with what we call the technology radars. R&D today is based on IP. You cannot revise something that is patented. So this is the purpose of work of an area that is working with AI and big data, and we provide intelligence to the Ministry of Economy and Finance. Yet another important point is the insertion of Brazil in the overall IP context. We have signed the Hague and the Madrid protocols, and we want the Hague Protocol to be voted on the 29th of this month. It is already on the list of items to be voted upon in Congress. We have to proceed with our international insertion and participation process. We have worked with the Danish embassy in order that institutions in both countries can do scientific research and businesses in the different areas covered by our protocol, namely agriculture, life sciences, health, and clean energy. There are 3 slides about the Danish project. We are making strides to sign similar protocols with France, Sweden, Switzerland, and other countries. Unfortunately, the speaker is speaking off microphone on top of a very loud background noise, and we simply cannot hear. We apologize with the interpreters. We launched this event in September 2020. And this is oriented to agribusiness. Topics were precision and sustainability, agriculture, machine and equipment, AI and agriculture, Agriculture 4.0, as it is called, pesticide control, organics. We apologize. It's just impossible to translate. We're very sorry. This would be a big startup show. Only they were not startup companies, but rather very well consolidated companies. So this would be joint research. We had an event in Denmark and another one here in Brazil. We had the participation of Brazilian agricultural equipment producers. We have very highly specialized companies. What was the result of this program? 140 contact opportunities were identified. The project is still ongoing. With the health system and clean energy. But this is a unique work model, as we know, for an IP executive agency. INPI has taken a major step towards internationalizing Brazilian innovation and for incorporating innovations that are important to Brazil. One of the business deals made were for packaging of chicken and the logistics of taking them to cold storage. This was one of the deals we closed. INPI today is examining its challenges for the next few years. We are very sorry, but the background noise is louder than the speaker's voice. It is impossible to translate. We are extremely sorry. We identify all of the systems that have to be established. There are 14. And all of the displacement in the decision-making steps until a technical decision is arrived at with concession and so on. This program was estimated to cost 35 million reais, and we are completing it at a much lower budget level, like 24 million. And in the beginning of 2024, we hope to have the system fully operational, fully developed in Brazil, and fully certified as a Brazilian scientific product. So we are also concerned that this is created and registered as Brazilian. I'm drawing your attention to this fact to say that we are introducing a new relationship model with our clients, that is Brazilian society. It's like what the previous speaker said. We have to know the client's intimacy. We do not think that we will be Uber like he described here, but we have to have client knowledge at the level of management of intellectual property in your corporations. This is not our main role. It's ABPI that has to be present there, and if the client needs the service, we will look for the agent. But the development, technological development, will follow. And for this purpose, we need to serve all of these demands which a client already has. So we are developing a window of intellectual property which has been a wonderful source of products and IP rights which can be transferred or traded. It's the first one is already available. The third version is going to be based on the transactions between the parties. Were they sales transactions? All of this will be part of this shop window, and the purpose would be to increase the visibility of IP items that are traded. We want to have a database for exchanging and trading IP rights. The ecosystem for trademarks, we are moving to IVAS 4.0. We are applying this to industrial design rights that are going to be covered by the system within INPI. So we are mobilizing all possible applications oriented towards both digitalization and the use of artificial intelligence and aggregating our databases so that it is possible to do the analysis of big data. So this is what is going on in INPI. I'd like to conclude by appealing to you, making a request. The legislative Brazilian process for putting the INPI's budget together goes through different steps. It starts with a proposal by INPI. We are proposing 88 million reais. To attract 32 billion reais in investment, including these 4 million that I alluded to before. The Ministry of Economics and Finance so far has given the green light to 32 million. We are requesting another 36, and this is to be approved. And we have a project that guides us how to use this money. The decision of the Ministry of Economics will be taken next week, and by August the 31st, this will be sent to Congress. And from then on, we have the phase of political approval. Those who are concerned with the financial autonomy of INPI, as we are, may you please support this initiative, because we need to achieve financial autonomy. INPI is doing its best so that the fees that it provides to the public are based on the needs for investment. So this is what we propose to the ministry. But this will not be in force in 2023. We need to survive, and we cannot start the new year being surprised by budget cuts. And I say this because this happened in the past. And INPI is a needle in a haystack. National Congress decides upon billions, and their aggregate decision is how many billion reais are necessary. We are talking about 26 million, and who can determine that we are actually a trademark and patent agency of the 21st century? We deal with information technology and other items. And Congress has to be knowledgeable of the fact that SUFRAMA and IMETRO are also relevant, but we here have to work together so that INPI is seen as a unique agency because it implements the national intellectual property policy. So this is what I wanted to convey to you. Thank you very much.
It's an honor to have you here today, and we hope that you can stay with us during the event. We're going to have an excellent plenary session, chaired. We'll be talking about the update of the legislation, and we have 26 people from the Brazilian Trademark Office collaborating, and at the end we'll have another plenary session on public civil action to ensure resources for the INPI. So I'd like to invite you all to take part in these two roundtables. We are running a little late. We'll have a coffee break. And please come back because the plenary sessions will start at 11:30 sharp. We have to start on time because we have people watching us online. All talks will be available online for a week. If you've missed any of the talks, you'll have a week to watch them. Thank you.